You know, when I started out on this platform, it was because I saw what other people were doing and I realized that I wanted something else. Analyze what was going on in my own life, and I realized that in order to really find a sense of purpose, um, something that I could identify with and say, this is mine, I've done this, I can feel good for having done this. This is a skill that I am then giving onto the world. I needed to work for it. If you go back through my videos, there was always there was always this air that I wasn't exactly doing what I wanted, but I was trying to work towards it. I saw what was in my life and I realized that I wanted something else. Now I consider this YouTube career as if I'm constantly fighting against the ocean, fighting against myself, the waves that have always come about, that will continue to come about. It's like I'm smashing against them in the hopes that I'm going to come out fine in the end, because all of my behaviors tell me to not keep doing something. When I start working on something, I feel immediately compelled to stop. It hurts, it feels bad to do things. This channel, it's been the easiest form of work or practice that I've had because it's fun to me, first of all, but the sides of it that have required work and have required effort to maintain, like dealing with speaking problems, dealing with flaws in my own work that I need to refine, it hurts to have that work put in front of you to say, you have to do that. And as the years have gone on this channel, it's increasingly became easier and easier just for me to put out whatever, but it wasn't always like that. I couldn't just write out an entire script in an hour and then put it out and feel fine with it. Now, even with that last script, the Why I Watch Anime script, I thought it was fine, but I had problems with it. There were things that I felt like I could have done better, but I still put it out. I felt like it was fine. And, just 2 years ago, year and a half ago, I wouldn't have been able to do that. No, I wouldn't have felt okay with it. I wouldn't have had these videos that I consider to be some of my favorites, just on YouTube, because I made them the way that I wanted them to come out. I saw what other people were doing. I saw that it made me feel something. And I tried to apply a similar type of thing to my own individual aesthetic that I wanted to express, that I wanted to see real. And in some cases, I actually achieved that. I actually achieved what I wanted to. And funnily enough, it was in the times in which I had my guard down the most. It was in the times in which I was focusing less on becoming that insane mastermind who can overcome all obstacles and just saying things because I was passionate. The best videos of mine have always been the ones in which I felt that I was misunderstood by the world, distrusted by the world, and I needed to put something out to correct that misunderstanding. Those have always been my best videos, because they mean something to me, because I care when I say those things. But I've had this obsession with the status quo YouTuber, with someone who isn't inconsistent. They just put out 7 out of 10 content every single day with 9 and 8s out of 10s interspersed between. Now, some of my favorite YouTubers, they did this for a very long time. And as I was making videos, I always aspired to be like them. But I realized that the amount of effort doing something like that would take vastly superseded what my ability was at the time because of the way that I experience energy. Like, when I sit down to do something, it's very rare that I'm able to continue doing it because I just lack the physical energy to do so. Now, I felt like a zombie for the last week, I think, because the only way I can perk myself up to actually do something is if I've drank copious amounts of caffeine. It's like I can't get myself to do anything without caffeine. Um, and it wasn't always like that. I could get through a day without caffeine fine, but I was never really able to do things. Now I can't get through anything without caffeine. Without caffeine, it's like I don't exist. It's like I feel so bad that, I'm not even real. It's like I just mold into the couch, like there's someone there, but not all the lights are on. And I end up being this like dead being that's stuck to this image on a screen, that they're just so fixated on it, but they're not really paying attention to it. It's like they're just conscious enough to be alive and to know what's going on, but they're not conscious enough to interpret it and think about it. And that's what I'm like a lot of the time, just laying on my bed over there, all hours of the day, sometimes for weeks at a time, until I get these moments of inspiration, and then I make this big declaration to do a project that I don't actually do. I don't like this. I don't like that I do this, and I've always been like this. I cheated in my work in school constantly because I just didn't want to do it, because I just didn't have the energy. Everything was too much back then. I don't have the energy for this, don't have the energy for that. So I never taught myself self-discipline. And so I let that mood, that energy, control me so much to where it's like an ocean overtaking my will. I don't want that. I don't want to be entirely controlled by this invisible force that is the chemicals in your brain my entire life. I want to be able to build something. I want to be able to build something with my own two hands. And this YouTube channel, it's representative of that struggle, of seeing I don't do things, ever, and just violently trying to keep that from being the case, trying to do things. Maybe the reason why I tend to idolize that period in 2016 where I only worked on things is because I see myself getting things done at that time. Even though my output on YouTube has radically surpassed the output that I had back then, at the same time, my focus was different. These days I focus on so many things that it's hard to just become good at one thing, like I was with YouTube. Back then, every day was YouTube. It's the only thing I thought about. And to an extent, that obsession with just receiving all of your affirmation and all of your reward from one thing is dangerous. And it wasn't very good for my health at the time. But I was dedicated. I was doing something every day. My mind was always on something every day. I was trying to improve, edit in every way that I can. Even if that meant long hours of me scolding myself for not doing good enough. I talked about this in podcasts on Outlaw's Cremation Furnace on the Chromasticators channel, my solo podcast on there. I talked about how I would literally slap myself in the face for not doing something right. If I made a mistake in my speaking, if I did something wrong writing-wise, slap myself like hard across the face each time I did it. And then I would start doing the line again. I would start trying to do it, but just correcting the mistake. If I made the mistake again, slap myself in the face, It was like that was the only thing I thought about, was doing YouTube. Every single day, that's all I thought about. I would wake up at random times, and I didn't really talk to anyone back then. I was kind of, I've always been antisocial, but at that time, I was not talking to anybody, just because I was so zoomed in on this one thing. Focus. I had focus then. That didn't really change until I met a friend of mine. Weeb Weeb Trash Productions. That was the first friend that I made who I talked to consistently. I had the guys at the D-Pad, DZ Dog, and all of them, but I only talked to them once a week for a podcast, which I saw as practice. Strictly business about that podcast most of the time. I just wanted to come on when we were recording. And nowadays, me and DZ Dog are good friends, but back then, it was, we only really talked as friends on the podcast. But the shift in mindset's very different, right? It's like now I only think of how I can maintain my community, how I can maintain my sense of peace. Now back then, only thing I thought about was how can I get better than where I am. And yeah, that manifested itself into long stretches of time in which I felt like shit because I was constantly criticizing myself. And, I felt terrible for the progress that I was making. I felt like giving up all the time, but I kept doing it. There was some mystical force inside of me that kept telling me to continue in spite of that. And I did get better. But even now, when it comes to my weaknesses in terms of writing or speaking, I just give up. I have to fight the ocean in order to make real progress, because these videos, what they've been representing as of late is just complacency. I've been falling back on my laurels. I've been doing the things that I know how to do, that are the most easy for me to do. And then the video's out over the course of an hour. It's done. Over the course of one take, it's done. I'm not challenging myself the way that I used to. I'm not trying to take on bigger and better things. I say I'm going to. Do I work on them? No. These are large declarations. These are dreams. These are things that I envision in my head and I feel good about while I envision them. But when it comes time to actually get them done, where's the bacon? Where's the results? They're not there. It's all just shallow talk, And that's a problem. It's bullshitting. It's literally bullshitting. It's saying, I'm going to do all these great things. Well, when did you do them? You didn't fucking do them. My emotions are the tide. It's the ocean that I'm fighting against. Because on every account, they tell me, don't work. Don't get better. Don't do anything. Because you would be more at peace just to lay down and rot. And part of me is okay with that. That's what I really worry about, is that there's the part of me that wants to fight against all that and wants to be something that people remember, even though I don't think the concept of people remembering you is meaningful at all. I don't believe in it, but I, at least in the time that I exist here, want to be someone who exudes, at least a fair amount of technical prowess in one skill. I want to be able to say that I can do that. I want to be able to show that I can do that. Because no matter what I do, there's this burning desire to make that change, to rebel against what I've always been like. Because I look up to these people who can do it. And I want that. I've seen these people that make me feel things with their art, with their work, with their ability to mobilize others and change things, and I want to do what they do because they inspired me, and I want to be that for others. I want to make people feel things with my work. Every time I get a comment of someone telling me, Outlaw, you perfectly contextualize my feelings. Part of my heart jumps out a little bit, because I know that at one point that was me watching some of my favorite YouTubers. If someone expresses that a feeling or an idea that I've always known, but I've never been able to explain in words, the fact that I'm hearing someone else explain it, it's like my heart explodes. It feels so good to finally know that someone is on that same wavelength, that they're thinking the same thing. I was just never able to explain it. knowing that I can do that for other people, that I can be a relatable figure, that I can be a helpful figure, that I can contextualize other people's thoughts. It's the goal that I've always had in mind, besides fulfilling my own aesthetic interests in YouTube, fulfilling an atmosphere that I've always clung to on other channels. At the very least, I can contextualize other people's feelings. And that does my heart a lot of good. I may not achieve certain goals that I have, but I know that I've done that. And it's one of the few things I have that keeps me pushing through on this channel. I'm a very mixed up guy. I have ambitions, they come and go. I have inconsistencies and I have consistencies. But no matter what iteration of my personality or worldview that I've been in, there's always been this sense that I'm fighting the ocean, that my emotions are going to overtake a situation and tell me to coil back into a shell, to not do work, to not fulfill this ego ideal that I've aspired to for so many years now. No, I coil back into that state, and it's like the emotions wash over me. It's overpowering. It's like it's drowning me. No. What is a human's desire when they start drowning? It's to swim up. Even if you're completely suicidal, even if logically you've decided you want your life to go away, you still swim up. I've tried to drown myself before. I still swam up. My body erratically shaked around, like I couldn't control my own will to drown in that place. So I had to go up because my body uncontrollably was just doing that. If you're being smothered by your own emotions, you tend to want to get out of it. Because in America, at least, we were raised on this ideal of the self-made man, of being someone who can aspire to be others that you see throughout media. We're constantly told, you can do this, you can do that, you just have to make yourself who you want to be. And that affects people. That affects how people think. You know, even for someone like me that's, you know, dealing with this cascade of horrible emotional suppression and of, you know, emotions that suppress me, I still feel that I have to fight against it. I still feel that I'm being drowned, and there's this irreparable sense that my body needs to move. Even if I don't control it, there's that ingling sense in the back of my mind that something has to change, that I want something better, and I have to fight for it. And so that continual emotional battle tends to manifest itself into me staying awake at nighttime, trying to tell myself to do the work that I've been meaning to do, and then not doing it. I know I can. I know I'm gonna do it eventually, but I don't. If there's one thing that I hate the most about myself, it would be that. It would be that debilitating level of emotional dysfunction I seem to possess, where I know I can do it. I just got to push through the stress. But as soon as the stress hits, I coil back, and I'd rather lay in bed all day because the energy is just too much. I want something else. I want to fight against that. I want to be the person I want to be. I know I can do it. It's just gotta keep ironing away at it, man. You just gotta keep telling yourself the correct things. You just gotta keep repeating it, guys. And I know this YouTube channel is representative of that. That's the thing. I know these videos are a direct product of my own endurance. I wouldn't have been on YouTube this long if I just caved in to my emotions. No, I wouldn't have been on it. I wouldn't have stayed here. I certainly wouldn't have been writing, because writing is the most hard thing for me. But I did it anyway. Why? Why did I do it? It's because I could endure it. It's because I could endure the continuous emotional pain and strain on my mental and physical being, because I wanted it. I wanted this stupid platform for people who are too obsessed with maintaining their self-image. It's a great idea. It's not unhealthy in even the slightest way. Why do I have to be interested in YouTube? Why do I have to be obsessed with this? Why do I have to have fun with this? Why can't I have something like being a doctor? I don't give a fuck about medical school. But if I was obsessed with that as I am with this, I could do it. Even with things that I like, doing, if they take just above the bare minimum of energy, they become the hardest tasks to conquer, and they become things that I coil away from as soon as it gets challenging. I am weak. There's no doubt about that when it comes to this. It's a sign of weakness that I need to quell, and I know I can. It frustrates me to no end that this even happens, because I feel like over the years I've just gotten worse. I've made more videos, but I've gotten worse at this problem of there being an uncomfortable thing. Because before, I was making less videos, but when an uncomfortable obstacle was posed, I would still fight against it, and I would endure the pain and the energy that would take up. I would still do it. These days I find myself resting so much more on my own laurels and not battling against that wave as I've described it. Something's got to change around here.